Yo. Yo. Yo, 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 yo. Yo. What it do, people? What it do? How are you all doing tonight? It's been a while. It has been a while, but your boy is back again. Yeah, how y'all doing tonight, man? How y'all doing? I hope everybody's doing good. I'm gonna give it a while before we get started. Um, yeah, had a good week. This is a pretty um easy week at work this week. So yeah. Finally glad I get to catch up with my favorite people in the world to talk some politics. Should be fun. Talking, we're gonna be talking the summit of the Americas, of course, because that is the item in the news currently. So it should be a dope talk. Should be a dope stream tonight. I keep forgetting to post on the American Autopsy IG. Like I shared on my private IG, but I keep forgetting to share it on the Topsy one. Give me one sec. Give me one shit. Taking a selfie for the share. I know you guys are like, what the hell is this fucking nigga doing? All right. All right. All right. All right. We'll give it like one more minute, then we'll get started, guys. Just gonna ramble a little bit more. So it's been some interesting like news in the week. News, the I guess from between now and the last time I streamed, like apparently, you have Biden now like trying to basically do a two-front war against Russia and China. It was very interesting. All the while things are not doing well here economically in America. I'm definitely feeling the hurt when it comes to gas right now, man. It's ridiculous. And they're going to pay for that. I'm telling y'all, Democrats are going to pay for that when it comes to people voting. You know, I'm not voting. I refuse to take part in the duopoly game. Doesn't matter whether you vote, for the red team or the blue team. It's still going to be a corporate, a corporate cock getting shoved up your ass. So I decide not to take part in that and all that fuckery. So that's just me personally. But a lot of people still fall for the game. A lot of people I like too still fall for the game. Sad to see. So sad. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the story. So, the topic. So, as a lot of you know, Joe Biden and the United States are currently in Los Angeles hosting the Summit of the Americas. I actually found out about it through Fault Lines on Radio Sputnik. And just hearing about it on Twitter from the different people I follow and different people I follow on YouTube as well. And it's very fascinating because because of who's coming there and who's not, and who was invited and who wasn't. And I feel like this picture that I'm about to share on my screen right now, like pretty much perfectly sums up the Summit of the Americas. Give me 1 second to share this. I feel like this picture perfectly sums up the Summit of the Americas. There you have, Um, and the meme, I wanted to credit them as Breakthrough News. I like Breakthrough News. I disagree with them and have been very disappointed with them on certain issues, but um, I feel like this meme though perfectly sums shit up, man. You like Honduras didn't show up, Mexico didn't show up, Bolivia, Grenada, and the reason for that is, well, let's go ahead and get into the reason why in this article from the New York Post. AMLO, who is the president, he's the president of Mexico. That was the big news, that the president of Mexico wasn't going to show up to the summit of the Americas. That's hilarious. But AMLO, that's his like kind of like AOC, she goes by AOC. AMLO is his thing. AMLO gives Biden the bird ahead of Summit of the Americas. So much for President Joe Biden restoring the world's respect for America. He just got dissed by the president of Mexico, with Brazil's joining in. Mexico's Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador says he's skipping this week's Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles because the tyrants running Cuba. You see, and you see how the Washington Post or the New York Post, all these fucking propaganda outlets bleed in together, but you see how they phrase this, phrase like the tyrants running Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua didn't get invites, which AMLO calls lack of respect for nations and their people. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. So, as I said, you see the framing that this guy's offering in this article. It's kind of hilarious, but in essence, he's agreeing with why Biden didn't invite these guys. So, for example, let's say Donald Trump was in office and Donald Trump decided not to invite the same list of countries, and AMLO probably doing the same thing as he did here, not showing up. Would they be saying the same thing about Trump? It's very like, people have what America doesn't realize is they don't realize that people actually have morals and standards, and especially as we're shifting from the unipolar world that we've existed in into a multipolar world, they can't handle it. They really can't handle it. And it's like, that right there shows it. Calling these leaders, these democratically elected leaders of their country, their respective countries, tyrants. It's fucking amazing. But of course, he goes on, as if restricting invitations to democracies equals imperialism. Then again, AMLO O's been eroding Mexico's democratic checks and balances, perhaps aiming to catch up with the three lefty dictators. Of course, AMLO quite publicly lost respect for Biden when the U.S. Prez reversed course on border control greatly, adding to Mexico's troubles with migrants heading north. Now Brazil's right loon Jair Bolsonaro is starting to skip. So of course you see the post, the New York Post is framing there. It's kind of hilarious. Let's go over to Ben Norton's article about this in Multipolarista. And again, while not the biggest fan of Ben Norton right now, Ben Norton's another one I've been disappointed with in lately. The information that he's presenting still stands. The United States government of the Americas started on June 6th in Los Angeles, California, and the event proved to be a major diplomatic failure for the Joe Biden administration. Washington refused to invite the socialist governments of Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. So to protest this exclusion, the presidents of Mexico, Bolivia, Honduras boycotted the summit. Guatemala's president also chose to skip the conference. This means heads of state representing Latin American countries with a total population of more than 200 million people, a significant percentage of the Americas, refused to attend Washington's Summit of the Americas. It's very fascinating. And the reason why I say that is because of what Ben Norton said there. 200 million people. It's a lot of fucking people. And it's like this, and to add the cherry on top, Biden invites Spain. Spain was there. And the hypocrisy of that is the fact that, okay, this is supposed to be a summit of the Americas and you invite leaders from a fucking European country there. But then the double hypocrisy is the fact that Spain is the former colonizer of a lot of these fucking countries. in actuality, in all honesty, the fallout from that colonial era is why a lot of these countries still have the problems they have now. It's just a double slap. I feel like it's a double down on this, like, on these delusions of American unipolarism, and I want to be doing a multipolar world stream. I've been actually putting it together for a while now. I just wanted to make sure I covered all my bases when I'm talking about this, but it's very strange and weird to see this. Well, it's not weird because America is failing, and it's happening at hyper speeds now with fucking Sleepy Joe in office, as Donald Trump like to call this guy. But it's just fun. It's funny and not funny at the same time, because when you understand the precedent of what's going on in geopolitics, because I see a lot of people on Twitter just playing these partisan games, like, oh, but like they don't like Biden and they don't like Democrats, so it's kind of like shitting on them. And while cool, and you're doing it from the correct perspective, which I'm going to agree with you, would they be doing the same if Trump were in office, or if it was a Republican in office, or a conservative in office? And I hate to say that, because then you sound like the Kyle Kalinskis of the world, and you come off as defending Joe Biden. So I kind of try not to do that no more, because I'd rather just remove myself from the equation when it comes to that specifically, and just instead of tailing, as Lenin said, and Mao, and multiple other communist leaders, or communist philosophers have said, instead of tailing behind liberals, you lead. So that's what I try to do. I try to lead with sticking with the guns of speaking on behalf of the working class. So that's what I do personally. But it's still weird to see. But and as the title says, I call this tone deaf. I really call it tone deaf, because when you understand the context of the United States and its role in Latin America, and why Latin America has a lot of the problems it has, then you understand that this is just like hypocrisy at the highest level. This is hypocrisy. This is delusions of grandeur. In all intents and purposes, it's American exceptionalism. It's United States, U.S. American exceptionalism, and it's insanity. It's utter insanity to watch. Watch from somebody who understands, the role the United States has played in these Latin American countries. These Latin countries, and as I'm pulling up on this picture that you're seeing now, for them to talk about all the things that they're talking about at this conference. And actually, let me pull up Anthony Blinken's, as Pepe Escobar likes to call him, Blinky. Let me go to Twitter and pull up what the State Department was saying, because it's very, like I said, it's very fascinating to see. It's very fascinating to see this going on. But actually, we'll do that after this. Because I wanted to play you guys what AMLO, what he had to say. But this is what Blinken had to say, and let me.
No other region in the world has the same direct.
I just want to make sure it's playing. You guys know I've been having trouble with the audio sometimes. Just want to make sure it's playing. You guys know to say. But this is what actually we'll do that after this. Because I wanted to play you guys what just want to make sure it's playing what he had to say. But this is what Blinken had to say. Let me. All right, bet. It's playing. So this is what sorry about that, guys. I've just been having issues with it. But this is what Blinken had to say.
In the world has the same direct impact on the lives and livelihoods of Americans than the hemisphere that we share. It's as simple as that. So to some extent, as goes the hemisphere, so go we. And so we have a real stake in making sure that together we get this right. And again, to state the obvious, this is a time of incredible challenge for all of us.
So let's run that back. Because then he starts going into COVID stuff.
In the world has the same direct impact on the lives and livelihoods of Americans than the hemisphere that we share. It's as simple as that. So to some extent, as goes the hemisphere, so go we.
That's very interesting because you decide not to invite all of the countries that you don't agree with politically. So clearly that's not the case. As the hemisphere goes, as we go, because you decided to not invite countries that are socialist. That's just the fact of the matter. Now, when you get to then when you look at the picture I was previously sharing, which I'm pulling up now, when you go into this picture of all of the countries they've couped throughout the years, it becomes blatantly obvious. Look at this. Look at all this. What is this one? Number 1. Oh, Venezuela 2002, Grenada 84, Dominican Republic 65, Puerto Rico 1950, Haiti 2004, Cuba 1961. They tried to do CIA leads the Bay of Pigs invasion, People's Revolution, Guatemala 1950. These are all countries that the United States has overthrown in Latin America. And it's more. They don't even have Bolivia on here recently, which I want to talk about in a second here, later, here. But look at that. And like I said, it's more. Venezuela in I think it was like 2019. They literally like tried to assassinate Maduro, or not assassinate him, overthrow him. They tried to overthrow him. Trump staged this coup down there where what's his face? Juan Guaido declares himself the president, and literally they're down there. So right now, because of the United States' retarded economic sanctions that they did against Russia, that's inflating the price of gasoline around the whole fucking world, which is why we're paying $5-6 for a gallon of gas, $10, $9, $7, $8, $9 in other places like Cali and all that. While they're paying we're paying the price of that, but inflating the price of gasoline. They're literally down in Venezuela. Now Nicolas Maduro is the real president of Venezuela. So when they tried, that their little dumbass coup, they tried their dumbass coup, and Juan Guaido declared himself president. Ever since then, both liberals and Democrats only recognize Guaido as the president. But now that the United States needs Venezuelan oil, all of a sudden Maduro's the president. You see U.S. diplomats going to talk to Maduro. It's fucking hilarious. It's the funniest shit you will ever see, diplomatic wise and geopolitics wise, because this is a country that they've been maligning and undermining, as you can see, for decades. But as of recently, they've been undermining hard body. And now, because you need something from them, as usual, when it comes to the fucking United States, that's when you recognize them. But then you turn around and smack them in the face by not inviting them to the Summit of the Americas. Now, I'm pretty sure they had conversations with Venezuela saying, we can't, in our right minds, invite you here. But hey, I'm sure there's negotiations behind the table, for why these things are happening. But still, the hypocrisy there is rife, even with that scenario, if that is the case. And Joe Biden's he's about to go over to Saudi Arabia to get on his knees and blow off MBS. To get him to open his oil reserves to tamper the price of gasoline around the world. Saudi Arabia is not a big fan of Joe Biden right now, but that's another thing too. So actually we'll get to that. So as I said, I wanted to show you the statements from Mexico's president. And look at this, man. I might do a whole segment just about this, going through each and every one of these coups. Haiti's on here. They've been fucking with Haiti. They literally couped Haiti like 3 or 4 times since I've been born. Just since I've been born. It's crazy. It's insanity. But I want to show you AMLO's statements on the situation. And again, to those just tuning in, AMLO is the letters of the Mexican president's name. I'm not going to be pronouncing his name over and over again because his name is long as shit. That's why I'm saying AMLO, like everybody else does. But let's go over to what he had to say.
Porque no se invita a todos los países. Y no voy a la cumbre porque no se invita a todos los países de América. Y yo creo en la necesidad de cambiar la política que se ha venido imponiendo desde hace siglos. La exclusión, el querer dominar sin razón alguna, el no respetar la soberanía de los países, la independencia de cada país. Y no puede haber cumbre de las Américas si no participan todos los países del continente americano. O puede haber, pero nosotros consideramos que es seguir con la vieja política de intervencionismo, de falta de respeto a las naciones y a sus pueblos.
So, that last part at the end where he says the old policy of interventionism, this isn't the old policy. We've seen it as of late, as of recently. But, still good what he was saying there. Good on him for boycotting this. But here he is continuing talking about Cuba, for
Impide que
example.
lleguen los alimentos. ¿Cómo es que se va a mantener un bloqueo que impide que lleguen los alimentos al pueblo cubano, que impide que lleguen las medicinas? Eso es un tipo de genocidio,
Yep.
de tremenda violación de derechos humanos. Cuando se trata el asunto.
By the way, I'm sorry to stop the video here. That it's literally against international law. There was a point where the United States had these crushing sanctions on Iran during the heat of the pandemic, where they couldn't get certain medical supplies in, and people were dying left and right. Not just from COVID, but also from other health issues like cancer. They couldn't get their medicines in and shit like that. And this is something that Cuba and other countries that have been blockaded, the DPRK, all of these countries they've been sanctioning for years. Syria now, something they've experienced, but Cuba's been experiencing it since they overthrew, the dictatorship that ruled the island all those years ago. But it's literally against international law, but they were doing it to Iran, and Iran went to the international courts, and the United States said, fuck you, and pulled out of the ICC and said, you're going to make you and what army is going to make us abide by international law? So the United States doesn't give a shit about international law. But let's go ahead, let them finish.
Del bloqueo en la ONU, todos los países votan para que se quite el bloqueo. Uno o dos lo impiden. Sería el colmo que nosotros asistiéramos a una cumbre.
Wait, what did he say? Let's run that back.
El colmo.
It would be the peak of hypocrisy
que nosotros asistiéramos a una cumbre en ese contexto. Eso es contrario a la política exterior de México, a lo que establece nuestra Constitución, a la no intervención, a la autodeterminación de los pueblos, el tema de la integración de toda América. Va a significar pues un cambio en la política, dejar la confrontación, dejar el odio, dejar la amenaza, los bloqueos, el injerencismo y optar por la hermandad,
So yeah, man, great words he was saying there. But you know, just continuing to speak on Cuba, um, you have people. So when you talk about the blockade, you know, and things like that, for why Cuba has been in the economic state that it's been in since the revolution, um, people rarely address that. But as a lot of you who watch my channel probably know, there were these like protests that were, you know, you could tell they were bullshit the way it was being pushed in the mainstream media, both liberal and conservative media, pushing the CIA, State Department garbage when it came to these protests in Cuba. This is what the instead of talking about lifting sanctions, this is what the mayor of Miami had to say in regards to helping Cuba. This is what he had to say
today. Your Honor, you're calling for the U.S. to intervene in Cuba. How exactly should we intervene and under what circumstances?
Well, thank you so much, Barney, for covering this. This is an issue that I think very much matters to the United States. I think, Cuba is one of the largest narco traffickants in the region. It's a state sponsor of terrorists as designated by the United States, and it is exporting communism.
So right there, that's hilarious. The largest state sponsor of terrorism. They say this about every enemy fucking country. They say this about Iran. They say this about Syria. While the United States is literally funding fucking Al Qaeda in the Middle East and ISIS and all of these other splinter jihadi groups, and while they're funding literal fucking Nazis in Ukraine, peak hypocrisy. But sticking to strictly Cuba. Give me 1 second to look this up, because it just hit my brain as he said that. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Damn, I should have looked it up before I came on here. Well, literally in like the 70s, a group of the Cuban exiles from Cuba that were working for the CIA at the time to help them overthrow the government of Cuba at the time, literally did a terrorist attack on a Cuban airliner. They bombed the Cuban airliner and a whole bunch of civilians died. So it's just very rich for this guy to talk about, you know, their exporter of terrorism and shit. Like, it's fucking hilarious. And I think he even said something about like drug trafficking or shit like that. Bro, like they literally make movies in Hollywood about how entrenched the CIA was in the drug trade. We know that the CIA was running drugs through the rat, via the rat lines coming over from Asia into America. Like literally, Frank Lucas is taking advantage of this, and I would assume it was with the government's help and the intelligence community's help. But that's my assumption. But we know that the United States was funneling drugs into America, specifically into the black communities. Specifically, like we know this. So again, peak fucking hypocrisy, and no evidence to support what he's saying. By the way, is too.
Throughout the hemisphere and throughout the world, and has been doing it for decades. And that is something that should interest the national security of the United States. There's a variety of different ways that the U.S. can intervene. Obviously, this is a humanitarian crisis because number one, the Cuban people have no food. Number two, they have no medicines and they're dying. And number three, the U.S. has intervened in Latin America in numerous occasions and has been very successful. Obviously,
you hear this fucking bullshit? So you saw the picture I showed you earlier, right? You saw the picture I showed you earlier of all the fucking coups the United States has done throughout fucking Latin America that has led to these countries being in the state that they're in today, and he calls that a success. Fucking nuts.
The number one hope is that the Cuban people will successfully be able to change the system of government themselves from within. either by through some sort of a public seizing of control of the country, or the military itself realizing that what it's doing to its people is a stain on the history of their lives, and that they should be on the right side of history. Failing all that, the United States has to really look at itself in the mirror and think about options that it's exercised in the past, like what it exercised with Panama, where it deposed Panama of Manuel Noriega, and Panama became a stable democracy for decades and decades. That has to be an option.
Noriega, who the United States put in power through a coup. Wow.
That the United States considers, and it's something that can have ramifications not just for Cuba, it can have ramifications for Nicaragua and for Venezuela, which is tens of millions of people in this hemisphere.
That's pretty strong stuff, Your Honor. I think
so. He's literally calling for the United States to intervene, to basically invade Cuba. Well, we thought about doing that. It was called the Bay of Pigs, which then led to Cuba, in order to protect its fucking sovereignty, go to its ally, the USSR, the Soviet Union, to put missiles, to give them missiles to defend themselves from the United States after they tried to overthrow their government, their country, which then led to the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I think they might come down a little bit in terms of the of how they react, because the Trump administration imposed significant sanctions on Cuba midway.
No, here we go. Here we talk about sanctions. Let's see what he has to say about that.
Through the administration. I suspect that the Biden team would love to remove those sanctions and allow Cubans in Florida to export food and medicine and water supplies to Cuba. That would be a way of intervening and helping Cuba. Would you approve of that?
You know, that would certainly be a way of intervening and helping Cuba. The problem is that the Cuban government, they want it both ways. They want to be able to blame the United States for their failed system of government. And then when remittances are sent over by Miamians, they take them essentially.
No, what they're saying, what the Cuban government is saying is lift the sanctions so we can engage in trade with the rest of the fucking world. That is what they're saying. So you hear all of these motherfuckers, these pro-capitalist motherfuckers who, you know, talk all day about the free market. We can't have socialized medicine because the free market. We can't have free college because the free market. We can't have anything because the free market. But then they stifle the free market from people because their system that works that works and will continue to work better and more efficient if those sanctions weren't there, flies directly into the face of the system that the United States has in place. This is like just peak retardation. You know, it's not retardation. It's not idiocracy. It's none of that. This is deliberate. This is imperialism. This is what Lenin described in his book, Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism. This is exactly what that is.
Right? They take the dollars, they convert them into a worthless currency, which is their currency, and then they force Cubans to pay for things in their stores in dollars. So they are completely depriving the Cuban people and use those resources as a means of control. Because all the Cuban,
and you see them showing all these protests, they never show you the counter protests that were vastly larger. They were literally taking pictures from the counter protest, the pro-government protest, and passing them off as if they were anti-government protest.
Cuban government wants to do, and all it's demonstrated to the world, by the way, in the images that you've displayed and that have been displayed over the last couple of days, is that they want a repressive, authoritarian control, a communist dictatorship to continue in the island. And so anything that we do to try to help the island ultimately becomes fuel for them to
lifting sanctions so they can engage in their glorious free fucking trade. And by the way, when I say that, and especially as somebody who leans more into Marxism, communism, and socialism, people think of that as an aha moment. Bro, the free market is not the market is not inherent to just one fucking system. Just like they think wealth distribution, like from the left side, you hear all these like DSA people like AOC, just DSA people in general. You hear them all talk about wealth redistribution, and if we start worker cooperatives, that'll be give people worker ownership, all that jazz. That'll be the solution to every. It's not. Wealth redistribution is not inherent to socialism. That is not what socialism is about and what communism is about. Socialism and communism is about the working class people, the people securing the means of production. And what that means is the important sectors of society in order for society to function, because the private sector has shown that it does not produce and allocate those resources for the greater good of the people and for the greater good of that society, of that nation. That is what socialism and communism is about. It's not starting worker cooperatives and communes and shit. That's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. Wealth, and so basically what I'm saying is wealth redistribution is not like inherent to socialism. You have wealth redistribution and capitalism. It just goes to the 1%. The wealth gets redistributed from the working class to the top 1%, and the government helps them do that. So wealth redistribution is not inherent to that. So the point that I'm saying is, you see these people talk about their glorious free market. They're literally blocking people from the markets because they decide to run their country in a different, and I'd say more efficient way, and they don't like that. So they're imposing their will and infringing on their sovereignty. So you hear them scream all day about Ukraine needs to have its sovereignty, yelling their heads off. Fine, Ukraine needs to have their sovereignty. That's what Russia wants for Ukraine too. They don't. Russia doesn't want Ukraine to be a client state of NATO and have a hostile country in our border. That's a whole nother conversation. That's neither here nor there. That's a stream for another day. But that they're infringing on Cuba's sovereignty, and they're going against their own morals by blocking a country from their glorious free markets because they don't like them and what they stand for. And that is bullshit. And that is peak hypocrisy. And it's so swell. It's so good that this guy is sitting his fucking ass in America, because that is what fucking America is all the fuck about. They do it to countries around the world, and they do it to their own fucking people here, regardless of whether it's fucking black people, regardless of whether it's white people, Asian. They do it to their own fucking people. So of course they're going to do it to other countries around the fucking world. And then on top of that, it adds the bonus caveat of having their own citizens not see that, hey, things could be better. We could do this better. So that's the added bonus caveat of imperialism as well, keeping us, the plebs, in check. It's just so crazy. So you see the conservatives are towing the same line as Joe Biden. They agree on this. This is why I try to tell people, like people on Twitter that's sitting here tweeting, oh, this is why I don't like leftists. Da, da, da. Good. Well, not good, but you're mistaking liberals who are conservatives for left. Liberals are not leftists. And look, I'm not engaging in these, label debates and shit like that. At the end of the day, leftism doesn't mean anything in the United States nowadays. But because they systematically demolished the left all through the 60s. The leftists are, for all intents and purposes, in the United States, gone. Now what you have is a bunch of fucking pro-imperialist DSA liberals. You have the AOCs of the world. You have the DSAs. You have the Jacobins of the fucking world. That's all you have nowadays. That's called the left in America. These pro-authoritarian leftists, which are not leftists. They're conservatives as well. But regardless, this motherfucker is talking bullshit right now. He's talking out his ass right now. And he's literally going against all of his bullshit capitalist free market principles to impose his vision on another country. Now, it's his country, but guess what? Democracy, you say you believe in democracy and freedom and liberty, my freedoms, you're infringing on the freedoms of your own fucking people. Now, Biden gave his little QT speech. He gave his little pretty speech. And let's listen to what he had to say. Let's go through this and see what he had to say. Because I found, again, a lot of this is peak hypocrisy. Now, he also got heckled too. I saw Jamal Thomas posted a video of him getting heckled. So that's what you see at the beginning of this. Ooh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. Let's get into it.
I honor to host my fellow leaders from throughout our hemisphere for the 9th Summit of the Americas, at a moment when we need more cooperation, common purpose, and transformative ideas that have never been a greater need than today. I also want to welcome all the representatives from civil society, the private sector, international institutions.
So you see how he harks on, you know, his pro-capitalist talk about the private sector. I even have, let me pull up his speech here. It's an honor to host my fellow leaders from throughout our hemisphere from the 9th Summit of the Americas at a moment when we need. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to read through this shit. I think it'll be better for me to read through it. So what I have right now is Biden. So I'll throw it up on the screen so you guys can see it. Because I can't take I can't take that too much with Biden talking. Oh my God. But it's an honor to host my fellow leaders throughout the our hemisphere from the 9th Summit of the Americas at a moment when we need more cooperation, common purpose, and transformative ideas that have never been a greater need than today. That's it's so hypocritical. I also want to welcome all representatives from civil society, the private sector, international institutions, and especially young people from across the Americas. Unreal. This is unreal. Democracy is a hallmark of our region. Really now. If I were to show you that map of all the fucking coups you did in your fucking region, I don't think that represents a democracy. But okay. Our Inter-American Democratic Charter, which grew out of the 3rd Summit of the Americas, captures our unique commitment to democracy as a region. You're denying democracy to Cuba, just let you know, and Venezuela and Nicaragua as well. It affirms the right of people throughout the Americas to democracy and our obligation as governments to promote and defend democracy. So there was a specific part. Give me 1 second to read through this and find it. Here we go. All right, here I found it, guys. I found it. Sorry about that. So this is what I found interesting here. The COVID-19 pandemic hit our region particularly hard. While we account for just 12% of the global population, we experience more than 40% of reported global pandemic-related deaths. And it's an enormous tragedy that has left too many families grief-stricken. And the ensuing economic crisis triggered by the pandemic ravaged economies throughout the hemisphere, wiping out much of the hard-earned progress we had made. 22 million more people fell into poverty. 22 million more. That's what he said. 22 million more people fell into poverty in just the first year of the pandemic. Inequity continues to rise. Global inflationary pressures were made worse by Putin's brutal and unprovoked war against Ukraine, are making it harder for families to make ends meet. So there he goes with his Putin price hike and Putin tax bullshit. Fuck out of here, bro. And all of these factors are contributing to vastly increased migration flows throughout our hemisphere, with too many people feeling there is no option available to them to provide for themselves and their families. These challenges affect all of us. Our nations have a responsibility to step up and ease the pressure people are feeling today. In the months leading up to this summit, countries have made meaningful and concrete commitments to address these challenges, and the United States is attempting to do our part as well. Yesterday, we launched our Cities Forward initiative, recognizing the key roles of mayors and local governments, the role they play in delivering for the people where they live. And we'll host the inaugural Cities Summit of the Americas in Denver in 2023. Earlier today, we announced a new America's Health Corps with 500,000 public health and medical professionals being trained in the region over the next 5 years to help strengthen our health systems throughout the hemisphere. So that's very ironic that he says that, because during the pandemic, while the United States was exporting sanctions and misery around the world, Cuba was exporting doctors to help countries like Italy and other countries that were struggling from the pandemic. That's what Cuba was exporting around the world, while the United States was still exporting bombs, economic sanctions, and more misery around the world, definite misery around the world. In the next few days, we'll be rolling out another new initiative created in cooperation with many of your countries. It includes the U.S. Caribbean Partnership. Sorry about that, guys. To address the climate crisis, which Vice President Harris, I think she also spoke at this summit as well. Sorry about that. I had to take a drink. Which Vice President Harris will lead for our country in a collaboration among the United States, Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Chile, and Mexico. The hemisphere who wasn't there. The hemisphere's largest exporters of food to increase food production for export as well as increase fertilizer production for transportation. Why is that? Because Russia is a large exporter of wheat and fertilizer that they're sanctioning right now. So again, this is Biden's economic sanctions against Russia coming back to bite him in the ass, just like it did with the oil. It's inflating the price of gasoline, which is now inflating. The sanctions are hitting the food sector and the agricultural sector as well, because they're sanctioning the fertilizer as well. Our leaders, all of us, as we discuss ways to better target more than $500 million of the United States is devoting to increase security for our citizens, working with partners to disrupt transnational criminal organizations. And tonight I'm announcing a new economic partnership that builds on all the work we have done with the region and will guide our engagement going forward. So that's all well and dandy. So here he's talking about this new economic thing that he wants to do. But bro, when you look at the United States, right, and the economic issues we have going here, you have more than 100,000, hundreds of thousands of people homeless in Los Angeles. You have a homeless problem. We have a homeless problem in the United States. You have families that are barely making ends meet, and this inflation that Biden has induced via, this stupid proxy war that they're pushing on with Russia, as well as with the sanctions and things like that, as I said, that are causing inflation. You have all that going on. Why are we you're making these promises to countries when you're not even taking care of yourself, bro? And this is where the America First crowd has people like AOC and people that are the progressives beat, because they're sitting here saying America First. Most of these countries' problems that you're talking about right now would be alleviated if you would leave them the fuck alone. So how are you going to sit here and talk about economically developing and helping these other countries when you can't even help your own fucking people? When you're impoverishing your own fucking people? That is the peak of insanity, in my opinion. Now, as I said, if they would leave a lot of these countries alone, a lot of their problems, would work out and solve themselves. This is one of them. Mexican president says U.S., going back to AMLO, can still apologize for botched Obama-era Fast and Furious gun running sting. Mexican President Andres AMLO reignited demands this week for either clarity or an apology over a botched United States gun running operation dubbed Fast and Furious. AMLO said there is still time for current leaders. So he's asking for an apology. And what is he talking about? What is he talking about? The U.S. federal government in 2009 to 11, I'm just, 2009 to 2011 border crossing scheme, which intended to trace firearm sales to Mexican drug cartel bosses. But the operation backfired after several weapons sold by U.S. law enforcement were tied to murders throughout Mexico. On Monday, AMLO first brought up the gun running sting, and this is also from it looks like May 9th, 2020. First brought up the U.S. gun running sting while discussing potential corruption tied to the drug trafficking arrest of Genaro Garcia Luna, Mexico's security minister between 2006 and 12. What seems serious to me is that the violation of our sovereignty was carried out, a secret operation, and that Mexicans were killed with these weapons. Now, imagine the flip side of that. Imagine if this was Mexico doing this to the United States. Do you think the United States would tolerate that shit? I'd be willing to wager no. I would be willing to wager no. So, as you can see, and just to close it out here, as you can see, the United States is at the peak hypocrisy of not inviting countries like Cuba, Nicaragua, what was the other one? Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, all of these countries that they say are dictators, they're led by dictators, as Joe Biden is going to give the Saudi government a blowjob so they can open up them oil, increase oil production, as he's going to give them a blowjob, a theocratic dictatorship, a fascistic dictatorship, as we fund as we sent $40 billion to one of, if not the most corrupt government in the world, in Ukraine, that is infested with Nazis. As we prop up all these dictators around the world, we're saying we're not going to invite dictators, countries that were, countries that whose people decided, hey, we want to try a different way. And just to add in real quick, because I forgot about it. I think I'm gonna cover this story probably tomorrow. I might do this article tomorrow. I might do a stream tomorrow again, guys. So look out for it. But Bolivia, they even had a panel where they were talking about bringing more, making indigenous people from these countries more, including them in the politics of these countries more and in the government more. The reason why that's a problem, the reason why that is more hypocrisy, the reason why that is more bullshit, is because we had a president who was democratically elected 4 times in Bolivia, Evo Morales, and the United States helped stage a coup there to overthrow him. There's a lot of reasons people speculate about, but the most prominent one I've heard was because of the lithium mines. There's that famous tweet from Elon Musk, who said we'll coup whoever we want to and things like that in regards to somebody on Twitter, calling him out for possibly being involved with Bolivia being overthrown for his lithium mines and shit like that. But because it's one of the largest countries. I think it has the largest lithium deposits, if I'm not mistaken, or it has one of the largest in the world. So yeah, the United States is on some hypocritical bullshit. And I was watching Richard Medhurst's stream last night, and I go by the Richard Medhurst doctrine: mind your fucking business and go to fuck home. Oh, that's literally what it is. That's literally what it is. So, guys, thank you for everybody that tuned in. Thank you for tuning in. It turned out to be a little shorter, than I thought it was gonna. I thought I was gonna be going for an hour and a half. But nice stream, guys. Let me see if make sure no comments came through. I didn't see any. I didn't see any. Hold on, let me check my phone just in case, it's not popping up on my computer. Yeah, didn't see any comments, but thank you to everybody that tuned into the stream. Really appreciate you guys. Like I said, I may do a stream tomorrow, so look out for it. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Peace. Be easy.